Have you ever worked hard for years, made good money, and still felt like something was missing? Not a small feeling, not a passing thought, but a deep, quiet ache that sits inside your chest, even on the good days, even after the promotion, even after you bought the car, even after you finally moved into the apartment you always wanted. You did everything right. You saved, you sacrificed, you worked late, and yet when you sit in silence, there it is again. That feeling, empty, hollow, like something important is still missing and you do not know what it is. If you have ever felt that way, I want you to know something important. You are not broken. You are not ungrateful. You are not alone. What you are feeling has a name, and a man understood it 2,500 years ago. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. Most people know him as the Buddha. And the teaching he left behind about money, wealth, and the human heart is more relevant today than it has ever been. This is a graded lesson for English learners who want wisdom and peace. Today, we are going to explore 8 lessons from Buddha's ancient teaching on money. Not about how to earn more, not about how to invest or save, but about something much deeper. About why so many people who have everything still feel like they have nothing. And about what wisdom, real wisdom, actually looks like when it comes to wealth. Wealth fills your wallet. Wisdom fills your life. That is the idea at the heart of everything we will explore today. And by the time we reach the end of this lesson, I believe something in you will shift. Not because I am telling you to change, but because the truth, once you hear it clearly, changes you on its own. Before we begin, I want to ask you something simple. Think of the last time you bought something you really wanted. Maybe it was something small, a new phone, a new piece of clothing, a meal at a restaurant you had been waiting to try. Do you remember how you felt before you bought it? That excitement, that anticipation, that sense that once you have it, everything will feel just a little bit better. And do you remember how you felt 2 weeks later? That feeling fades. It always does. The excitement becomes ordinary. The new becomes normal. And quietly, without realizing it, you start looking for the next thing. This is not a personal weakness. This is one of the most deeply human experiences there is. And Buddha saw it clearly. He did not judge it. He did not shame it. He simply said, this is what the untrained mind does. And there is another way. This lesson is not about giving up your money or your dreams. It is not about becoming a monk or living with nothing. Buddha himself did not teach that. He called his path the middle way. Not too much, not too little, but something far more powerful than either extreme. It is about understanding the relationship between what you have and what you feel, between your wallet and your heart, between your bank account and your peace of mind. If you are learning English and you want to grow not just in language but in life, then you are exactly where you need to be right now. Stay close, take it slowly, and let these words settle inside you. This is not just a lesson for your English. This is a lesson for your life. If this kind of content helps you grow, please subscribe to this channel right now. Every week, we bring you stories and lessons that improve your English and deepen your thinking at the same time. Press the subscribe button. It only takes 1 second, and it means everything to us. Now, let us begin. Lesson 1. The Hungry Ghost. Here's the truth. In ancient Buddhist teaching, there is a world called the realm of the hungry ghosts. It is not a place you travel to. It is a state of mind. And once you understand it, you will start to see it everywhere. The hungry ghosts are described as beings with enormous swollen stomachs. They are always starving, always desperate to be filled. But their necks are impossibly thin and their mouths are tiny. So no matter how much they eat, no matter how much they consume, the food passes through and they feel nothing. The hunger never stops. The emptiness never goes away. Buddha was not describing a myth. He was describing a pattern of the human mind. Think about someone you know, or maybe think about yourself, who is always looking for the next thing, the next salary increase, the next vacation, the next achievement. They get what they wanted. They feel satisfied for a moment. And then, almost immediately, the wanting returns. Stronger than before, more urgent than before. That person is not greedy. That person is not bad. That person is caught in a pattern that Buddha gave a name to thousands of years ago. The name is upadana. It means clinging, attachment, the habit of holding on too tightly to things outside yourself and believing they are the source of your peace. Here is what makes upadana so powerful and so painful. It does not feel like clinging. It feels like wanting. It feels like ambition. It feels like you are just trying to build a better life. And in many ways you are. There is nothing wrong with wanting good things. But there is a point, a very specific point, where wanting becomes needing, where desire becomes desperation. And that is where the suffering begins. Buddha said something that stopped people in their tracks when they first heard it. He said that suffering does not come from having too little. It comes from clinging too tightly. You don't suffer because you have money. You suffer because you cannot let go. Read that again slowly. Not because you don't have enough, but because you are holding on too hard to your savings, to your status, to the idea of what your life should look like by now. A distracted mind spends money to feel something. A wise mind uses money to build something. That is the difference between the hungry ghost and the wise person. The hungry ghost consumes to fill a void. The wise person creates to express a vision. One is always running towards something. The other is already standing in a place of quiet strength. Now, here is the part that might surprise you. Buddha did not say that wealth is evil. He did not teach that money is dirty or that rich people are lost. What he said is more subtle than that and more honest. He said that money, like fire, is a powerful tool. In the right hands, with the right understanding, it can warm a home, cook a meal, light a dark room. But without wisdom, without awareness, without knowing how to hold it properly, that same fire will burn everything you love. The question is never how much money you have. The question is always, what is driving your relationship with it? Are you using money or is money using you? Are you building towards something meaningful or are you running away from a feeling of emptiness that no amount of money has ever been able to fill? These are not easy questions, but they are the right ones. And the fact that you are here listening, thinking, learning tells me that you are ready to face them. The hungry ghost has been inside all of us at some point. The wisdom begins the moment we see it clearly. Lesson 2, the middle way. Now think about this. Most people, when they hear the word Buddha, imagine a monk sitting alone on a mountain with nothing. No phone, no family, no possessions. Just silence and an empty bowl. And so when they hear that Buddha had something to teach about money, they assume the lesson is simple. Give it all away. Walk away from wealth. Choose poverty and find peace. But that is not what Buddha taught, not even close. Before Siddhartha became the Buddha, before he sat beneath the Bodhi tree and found his awakening, he tried both extremes. He lived as a prince inside a palace of extraordinary wealth. Every comfort, every pleasure, every luxury a human being could want. And he felt empty. Then he left. He walked away from everything and lived as an ascetic. No food, no shelter, no rest. He punished his body in search of spiritual truth. He nearly died, and he still felt empty. It was only when he stopped chasing both extremes that something opened inside him. Not the extreme of having everything, not the extreme of having nothing, but a path of balance, awareness, and wisdom that he called the middle way. The middle way is not about having less, it is about needing less to feel whole. That single idea changes everything. Because most of us have been measuring our lives by the wrong ruler. We measure by how much we have. We compare our bank accounts, our homes, our wardrobes, our vacations. We measure success by accumulation. And we wonder why, even when the number gets bigger, the feeling of enough never quite arrives. The middle way says the problem is not the number. The problem is the measuring. A monk and teacher named Thich Nhat Hanh, one of the most respected Buddhist voices of the modern world, once described peace this way. He said that peace is not something you find in the future. It is something you recognize in the present moment. When you stop running toward the next thing and you actually arrive in the life you already have, peace is already there, waiting. It was always there. He spent decades teaching people that the most powerful thing a human being can do is slow down, breathe, and notice what is already enough. Most people work harder to earn more. Wise people work deeper to want less. Now think about what that means for your own life, not as a judgment, not as pressure, but as a genuine question. What if you already have more than you think you do? What if the feeling of not enough is not about your bank account at all? What if it is about how present you are to what you already hold? Imagine just for a moment waking up tomorrow morning and not feeling behind, not feeling like you need to earn more, buy more, or prove more before you can relax. Imagine sitting with your morning coffee or stepping outside into the early air and feeling quietly and simply that this is enough. Not forever, not for everyone, but for right now in this moment, it is enough. That is not weakness. That is not giving up. That is what Buddha called wisdom. That is what Thich Nhat Hanh spent his life pointing toward. And that is what the middle way actually feels like when you begin to live it. The middle way does not ask you to stop earning. It does not ask you to stop growing. It asks you to stop confusing more with better. It asks you to stop using the future as the place where your real life will finally begin. Your real life is here. It is now. And if you can feel that even for one moment today, you have already taken the first step onto the middle way. Lesson 3, the trap your brain sets for you. Stay with me because this next part is going to explain something that has been happening inside your mind your entire life. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. There is a pattern in human psychology that scientists have studied for decades. They call it hedonic adaptation. It is a long phrase, but the idea is simple. It means that human beings adapt to everything, every new thing, every improvement, every upgrade. No matter how good it is, no matter how hard you worked for it, your brain adjusts. It absorbs the new reality and then it resets back to the same baseline, back to the same ordinary feeling, back to the same quiet question, is this all there is? Think about the last time you got something you really wanted, a raise at work, a new apartment, a trip you had been planning for months. In the days before it happened, you felt anticipation, excitement, a sense that once this arrives, life will feel better, more complete. And then it arrived. And it was good, genuinely good. You felt happy. But 2 months later, the raise became your normal salary. The apartment became just where you live. The trip became a memory you rarely think about. And the feeling of not enough quietly returned like a tide coming back in. This is not your fault. This is how the human brain is wired. Scientists, psychologists, researchers across the world have confirmed it again and again. We adapt, we normalize, we move the goalpost, and then we chase again. Stay with me. Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest human beings who has ever lived. For many years, he has been among the top 5 richest people on the planet. He has more money than most countries. He could live anywhere, do anything, own everything. And yet Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958, a modest 5-bedroom home in Omaha, Nebraska. He bought it for $31,500. He has lived there for more than 60 years. He still drives himself to work. He still eats breakfast at a local fast food restaurant most mornings. People ask him about this. They find it strange. Here is a man who could own 100 mansions, and he chooses the same house, the same routine, the same simple life he has always had. And Buffett has said in different ways over the years that the things which bring him real satisfaction are not things at all. They are ideas. They are relationships. They are the work itself, the thinking, the learning, the slow, patient process of doing something he genuinely loves every single day. He is not performing simplicity, he is living it. Because somewhere along the way, he understood something that hedonic adaptation cannot touch. He found meaning that does not fade. That is what Buddha was pointing toward. That is what the science confirms. The brain adapts. The emptiness returns. Only wisdom breaks that cycle. Not more money, not a bigger house, not a faster car. Wisdom. The kind that comes from understanding what you actually need versus what your restless mind is constantly telling you that you want. Here is what hedonic adaptation reveals if you are willing to hear it. The next thing will not save you. It never has, and it never will. Not because good things are bad, but because the feeling you are chasing does not live in the next thing. It has never lived there. It lives in a different place entirely. A place that money can point toward, but never purchase. A place that Buddha described with great precision. And a place that we are going to find together, one lesson at a time. Lesson 4, the 2 arrows. Hear me on this. Buddha once told a story about 2 arrows. It is one of the simplest teachings he ever gave, and it is one of the most powerful. He said that when something painful happens in life, it is like being struck by an arrow. The arrow hurts. The wound is real. You did not ask for it. You did not deserve it. But it happened, and it hurts. That is the first arrow. But then almost immediately, the mind does something. It reacts. It argues. It asks why. It replays the moment again and again. It says things like, "This should not have happened. This is not fair. I worked so hard and this is what I get. Why me? Why now? Why always me?" That reaction, that story the mind tells about the pain is the second arrow. And Buddha said something that stopped his students completely when they heard it. He said the first arrow is not always in your control, but the second arrow is always a choice. Most of the suffering we carry is not from what happened to us. It is from the story we keep telling ourselves about what happened to us. Now bring this into the world of money and stay with the image for a moment. A man, let us call him David, spent 20 years building his career. He was good at his work, disciplined, focused. By the time he was in his early 40s, he had everything the world told him to want. A senior position at a well-known company, a large apartment in the city, a wardrobe full of good clothes, holidays twice a year, a savings account that made him feel secure. And one evening, sitting alone in a hotel room in another city after another successful business trip, David cried. Not because anything had gone wrong, but because nothing felt right. He had removed every first arrow from his life. He had solved every practical problem. He had earned his way out of every fear he grew up with. And the second arrow was still there, buried deep. The quiet voice that said, "Is this it? Is this what I worked for? Is this all there is?" David did not need more money. He needed a different relationship with himself, with his time, with his sense of meaning. He needed, in Buddha's language, to stop shooting himself with the second arrow. It took him 2 more years to understand that. 2 years of late nights, long conversations, and slowly, carefully learning to sit with himself without needing the noise of achievement to fill the silence. He started meditating, not because he was spiritual, but because he was desperate. And in that quiet, something began to shift. Hear me on this. Money can remove one arrow. Only wisdom removes the second. You can earn your way out of poverty. You can save your way out of insecurity. You can buy your way out of discomfort. These are real and important things. Do not let anyone tell you that money does not matter. It does. But money cannot remove the second arrow. It cannot quiet the voice that says you are not enough. It cannot fill the space left by a life lived without meaning. It cannot replace the peace that comes only from understanding who you are beneath everything you own and everything you have achieved. Wealth fills your wallet. Wisdom fills your life. If today's lesson is speaking to something real inside you, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel right now. Every week, we explore ideas like this in clear, graded English that helps you grow in language and in life at the same time. Click the subscribe button below. Leave a comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. It means more than you know. Now let us keep going, because the next lesson might be the most important one yet. Lesson 5, what money cannot buy. Let me make this simple. There are 2 kinds of motivation living inside every human being. Psychologists have studied this for decades, and the findings are remarkably consistent. The first kind comes from outside, a salary, a bonus, a title, a reward, recognition from other people, the approval of the world around you. This is called extrinsic motivation. It is real, it is powerful, and it works, but only up to a point. The second kind comes from inside, a sense of purpose, the feeling that what you are doing matters, the quiet satisfaction of growth, the joy of doing something you genuinely love, not because someone is watching, but because it is true to who you are. This is called intrinsic motivation. And unlike the first kind, it does not fade with time. It deepens. Here is what the research tells us clearly and consistently. When people are driven primarily by extrinsic rewards, they can achieve a great deal. But they rarely feel fulfilled because extrinsic motivation is like a fire that needs constant fuel. Remove the reward and the fire goes out. Keep the reward, and after a while, even the fire feels cold. Intrinsic motivation is different. It burns on its own. It does not need constant feeding. It is connected to something deeper than outcome. It is connected to meaning. Buddha understood this distinction 2,500 years before the first psychology textbook was written. He taught that chasing external rewards, wealth, status, approval is like drinking salt water when you are thirsty. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Let me make this simple. Consumers buy things to fill the emptiness. Builders create meaning so the emptiness disappears. That is the difference. Not between rich and poor, not between successful and unsuccessful, but between people who are running towards something real and people who are running away from something they have never stopped to examine. In the final years of his life, Steve Jobs, one of the most successful and celebrated innovators of the modern world, reflected on what his achievements had actually given him. Those who were close to him in those years described a man who had begun to see with great clarity that the things he had built, the products, the company, the legacy, were meaningful, but that the relentless drive, the endless push for more and better and bigger had cost him something he could not get back: time, presence, stillness. He had spent decades building things that changed the world. And in the end, what he spoke about most was not what he had created. It was what it felt like to simply be, to be present, to be at peace, to sit with his family without his mind already racing toward the next thing. He did not regret his work, but he understood, perhaps later than he wished, that no amount of external achievement can reach the place inside a person that only meaning and presence can touch. Purpose is not something you buy. It is something you build. And here is the question that Buddha would ask you right now if he were sitting across from you in this moment. What would you do tomorrow if money was not the reason? Not what you would buy, not where you would travel, but what would you do? What would you create? What would you give? What would you finally allow yourself to become? That question is not meant to make you feel guilty about your ambitions. It is meant to help you find the ones that are truly yours, the ones that do not depend on applause, the ones that would still matter even if no one ever saw them, because those are the ambitions that will actually fill you. Not the ones the world gave you, the ones that were already waiting inside you, quiet and patient all along. Lesson 6. Everything you own will one day belong to someone else. Pause for 1 second. I want you to think about something that most people spend their entire lives trying not to think about. Everything you own right now, your savings, your home, your car, your clothes, your devices, everything you have worked for and accumulated and protected will one day belong to someone else. Or it will simply be gone, not as a punishment, not as a tragedy, but as the most ordinary, inevitable fact of human existence. In the Buddhist tradition, this truth has a name, anicca. It means impermanence. It is one of the three deepest truths that Buddha taught about the nature of reality. And it is the one that people resist most powerfully. Because accepting impermanence means accepting that nothing you hold can hold you back in return. Nothing you own is truly permanently yours. This is not a dark idea. I know it can feel that way at first, but stay with the thought a little longer. Pause for 1 second. If you truly accepted in your body and not just in your mind that everything is temporary, how would that change the way you hold your money? Would you grip it tighter? Or would you hold it more lightly, more wisely, more generously? Would you spend more of your energy protecting what you have? Or would you spend more of it using what you have meaningfully, purposefully, while you still can? Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man named Marcus Aurelius sat at a wooden desk and wrote in a private journal that he never intended anyone to read. He was not writing for history. He was not performing wisdom for an audience. He was talking to himself, trying to remind himself day after day of the things that actually mattered. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the known world at that time. He commanded armies. He controlled the wealth of an empire. He could have spent his private thoughts on strategy, on power, on how to accumulate more. Instead, he wrote about letting go, about the smallness of human ambition when seen against the vast scale of time, about how even the greatest empires crumble, about how every person from the lowest slave to the highest emperor returns to the same earth in the end. He wrote that the only things worth protecting are the things no external force can ever take from you: your character, your integrity, your capacity to think clearly and act wisely, your ability to love and be present to the people in your life. He had everything the world considers success, and what he valued most was none of it. Fear hoards money. Wisdom moves money with purpose. That is the lesson of impermanence lived out in real human life. Fear looks at the temporary nature of all things and responds by clutching tighter, by building higher walls, by accumulating more as a defense against the inevitable loss that is coming regardless. Wisdom looks at the same truth and responds differently. It says, if all of this is temporary, then let me use it well. Let me move it with intention. Let me make sure that what I do with my money, my time, my energy reflects what I actually believe about what matters. There is a question that impermanence asks every single one of us, not cruelly, not harshly, but with a kind of quiet urgency that if you let yourself hear it, changes everything. What are you holding on to right now that you know deep in your heart you will one day lose? A relationship you are afraid to invest in fully because it might not last forever. A dream you are afraid to pursue because it might fail. A moment of joy you are holding at a distance because you are already worried about when it will end. Impermanence does not take these things from you. Your own fear of impermanence does. Everything you own will one day belong to someone else. That is not a reason to despair. That is a reason to begin. Begin using what you have. Begin giving what you can. Begin living as if the life in front of you is the only one you are going to get. Because it is. Lesson 7, the wisest thing you can do with money. Listen carefully, because this next lesson is one that almost no one talks about. Not in financial books, not in business podcasts, not in the conversations we have with our colleagues or our families about money. But Buddha talked about it clearly, directly, and with great tenderness. He called it dana. It is a word from the ancient Pali language, and it means generosity, the practice of giving, not because you have to, not because someone is watching, not because it will earn you a reward or a reputation, but because giving, real giving, from a place of genuine openness is one of the most powerful things a human being can do with whatever they have. Now, before you think this is simply a lesson about charity, stay with me for one more moment. Because dana is not just about money. It is about a way of holding what you have. It is about the difference between a closed fist and an open hand. When you hold your money with a closed fist, the message you are sending to yourself deep in the quiet of your own heart is this: there is not enough. I must protect what I have. The world is a place of scarcity. I must hold on or I will lose. When you hold your money with an open hand, the message is entirely different. It says, I have enough to share. I trust that what I give will return in forms I cannot predict. I am not defined by what I accumulate. I am shaped by what I offer. Listen carefully. One of these two messages, chosen again and again over months and years, becomes the foundation of your entire relationship with wealth and with yourself. A young woman, let us call her Maya, graduated from university with a good degree and found a job that paid her well. She was careful with money, disciplined. She saved a percentage of every paycheck. She tracked her spending. She had a 5-year financial plan, and she was deeply, quietly unhappy. Not because her plan was wrong, not because her savings were insufficient, but because her entire relationship with money was built on fear. Every decision she made about money came from the same place. What if it runs out? What if I lose it? What if I end up with nothing? Then one day on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, she walked past a small community garden in her neighborhood that was asking for volunteers. She had no particular reason to stop, but she stopped. She started giving one Saturday morning a month, then two. Not money, just time, just presence. Just a simple act of giving something she had to people who needed it. And something inside her shifted, not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, the way light changes in a room when someone opens a curtain. She began to understand in her body, and not just her mind, that she already had enough. That the fear driving her financial life was not protecting her, it was imprisoning her. She did not give away her savings. She did not abandon her plan, but she began to hold her money differently, with an open hand instead of a closed fist, with trust instead of terror. Buddha taught that generosity is not what you do after you feel secure. Generosity is what creates the feeling of security. Because the moment you give from a genuine place, you prove to yourself that you are not controlled by what you have. And that proof, felt deeply and honestly, is one of the most liberating experiences a human being can know. The wisest thing you can do with money is let some of it go. Not all of it, not carelessly, but intentionally, mindfully, as an act of trust in yourself and in the world around you. Wealth fills your wallet, wisdom fills your life. And generosity, quiet and steady and given without expectation, is one of the clearest signs that wisdom has begun to take root. Lesson 8: contentment is not giving up. Here's what most people miss. They hear the word contentment and they flinch, because in the world we live in, contentment has been given a bad reputation. It sounds like settling. It sounds like giving up. It sounds like the thing you say when you have stopped trying. When you have accepted defeat and dressed it up in spiritual language to make yourself feel better about it. But that is not what contentment means. Not in Buddha's teaching. Not in the lives of the people who have actually found it. The ancient Sanskrit word for contentment is santosha. And santosha does not mean passive. It does not mean resigned. It does not mean you stop growing or building or reaching for what you want. Santosha means the ability to be at peace with where you are while still moving toward where you want to go. Read that again. At peace with where you are while still moving toward where you want to go. Not one or the other, both at the same time. That is not weakness. That is one of the most difficult and most beautiful things a human being can learn to do. Here's what most people miss. The opposite of contentment is not ambition. The opposite of contentment is restlessness. That low, constant hum of dissatisfaction that tells you that the present moment is never quite enough. That tells you the real life, the good life, the life where you will finally feel okay is always somewhere just ahead, just around the next corner, just after the next goal is reached. Restlessness is exhausting, and it is invisible. Most people who are living inside it do not even know it is there. They call it drive. They call it motivation. They call it hunger. And some of it is. But underneath the drive, if you are honest enough to look, there is often something quieter and more painful. A deep uncertainty about whether you exactly as you are right now are enough. Santosha says you are enough. Not perfect, not finished, not without room to grow, but enough. Right now, in this moment, as you are. And from that place, from that ground of quiet self-acceptance, you can build something that restlessness never could. Something sustainable, something true. Something that does not collapse the moment the external rewards slow down or disappear. Here's what most people miss. The wealthiest people in the world, the ones who feel genuinely rich, not just financially, but in every dimension of their lives, are not the ones who have the most. They are the ones who need the least to feel whole. They are the ones who woke up one morning and decided quietly and without drama that enough was actually enough, that the chase could pause, that the present moment deserved their full attention, that the life they already had was worth showing up for completely. That decision did not make them passive. It made them free. Because when you are no longer running from emptiness, you can finally run toward meaning. When you are no longer driven by fear of not having enough, you can be guided by love of what you are building. When the question changes from how do I get more to how do I use what I have well, everything changes. The quality of your work changes. The quality of your relationships changes. The quality of your presence in your own life changes. Contentment is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a different kind of journey. One where you are no longer a passenger being pulled by appetite and anxiety. One where you are finally the one holding the direction. Wealth fills your wallet. Wisdom fills your life. And contentment, real contentment, santosha, is the moment those two things finally come together. When what you have and what you feel are no longer at war with each other. When your outer life and your inner life begin slowly and imperfectly and beautifully to align. Contentment is not settling, it is arriving. And you can arrive. Not someday, not when you have more, not when the conditions are perfect. Now, here, in the life you already have. We have come a long way together in this lesson. And before we close, I want to bring everything back to the beginning, back to that quiet ache, that feeling you may have carried for years without knowing what to call it. Now you have some words for it, and more importantly, you have some wisdom for it. We began with the hungry ghost, that ancient image of a being who consumes and never feels full. We learned that the hunger is not about food and it is not about money. It is about clinging, about the habit of looking outside yourself for something that can only be found within. We moved through the middle way and we understood that Buddha never asked anyone to give up wealth. He asked us to stop letting wealth give us our identity. He asked us to find the place inside ourselves that is already whole, already enough, already at peace, and to build our outer lives from that place rather than toward it. We sat with impermanence, with the unavoidable truth that everything we hold will one day pass. And we discovered that this truth is not a reason for despair. It is an invitation to hold more lightly, to give more freely, to be more present to the life we already have right now, today. We met people who had everything the world promised would make them happy and felt empty. And we met people who found in quiet and unexpected places that the thing they were looking for was never as far away as they thought. And through all of it, one idea has remained at the center of everything. Wealth fills your wallet. Wisdom fills your life. That is not a criticism of ambition. It is not an argument against success. It is simply the truth that 2,500 years of human wisdom, from ancient India to modern science, from Buddhist monasteries to the private journals of Roman emperors, has confirmed again and again. The good life is not the one with the most in it. It is the one lived with the most awareness, the most presence, the most honesty about what actually matters and what we have simply been told should matter. You are allowed to want a good life. You are allowed to build wealth, earn well, and enjoy the things that money makes possible. None of that is wrong. None of that is the problem. The problem is only this: when the wanting never stops, when the earning never feels like enough, when the life you are living right now is always just a placeholder for the real life that is somehow always still ahead of you. The day you stop chasing and start understanding, everything changes. Not because your circumstances change overnight, but because you change. The way you see your money changes. The way you hold your time changes. The way you show up for the people around you changes. The way you feel when you sit in silence at the end of a long day and ask yourself honestly whether you are living a life that means something to you changes. That is what Buddha was pointing toward. Not poverty, not detachment from the world, but a different kind of richness. One that does not depend on the market. One that does not fluctuate with your salary. One that no one can take from you because no one gave it to you. You built it, slowly, honestly, one wise choice at a time. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing from the inside. That is how you become truly wealthy, not just in your bank account, but in your heart, in your relationships, in the quiet, unshakable sense that you are living a life that is genuinely, deeply yours. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this lesson moved something in you, I would love to know. Tell me in the comments, when did you first feel that money alone was not enough? I read every comment, and your words help build this community into something real. If you have not subscribed yet, please do that now and share this lesson with one person in your life who you think needs to hear it today. Not because they are lost, but because they are ready. Until next time, keep going. You are closer than you think.